Sorry, so it took me 4 hours to drive in today, which is crazy. I don't know why. So I'm a bit like not here and here. And personally, I've got quite a lot going on because on Tuesday, I find out if I have a trapped nerve or I've got secondary cancer with about 2 to 3 years to live. It's one or the other. I mean, who wouldn't be welcome for a trapped nerve in that moment? Come on in if you want to. But if you know me, I'm pretty positive about these things, and it'll be secondary because I've had breast cancer already, and I'm not going through fucking chemo again. So that would also be another big decision. But my mind isn't lost or twisted on that. I'm a very present person. So it's also very quiet. If it's your first lamb, this is probably one of the quietest lambs we've had, actually. And normally this workshop is so full you can't sit in it. So again, that's also unusual. So my name is Deb. If you don't know me, I am a psychologist. If you are, is anyone here a counsellor or therapist or psychologist or psychiatrist or in that field? If you are, write to me. I can give you free CPD. If you just tell me on FetLife, if you DM me, I can send you, you will have to give me your real name, I'm really sorry, and your real email address. Come on in. You will have to give me your real name and your real email address. If you don't want to do that, I understand, but clearly, like professional courtesy and respect, I would then, bloody draw, I would then just send you a CPD certificate to your email as well. So you've got that as well, because normally, like for an hour and a half, you're going to pay 60 to 100 quid, aren't you? It's mad. But I do it very generically about relationships. I do involve kink as well. I'm also working with pink therapy at the moment. Well, we will be. And I'm going to write a set of courses for, you can come in if you want. Am I that scary? I've got a Miffy top on. Look at me. I can't be that bad. I was at Brighton yesterday at their market and I walked in. I think I was in bright orange. And I was the only one there dressed in a colour. Somebody even said to me, do you know where the toilets are? And I was like, I must look like I work here or something. Not one of the punters at all, am I? It really made me giggle. But so I'm a psychologist. I mainly work with people of all sorts. I don't tend to work in business so much anymore. I work quite a lot in cheerleading with my daughter, and I get asked to go around gyms and do stuff because she has a very successful cheerleading club. I tend to work, instead of doing a PhD, what I decided to do was a couple of years in quite a lot of things. So like trauma, families, psychosexual. So I'm kind of a generalist approach rather than just really specific, but clearly I work with a lot of kinky and consensual non-monogamy humans because they might feel less judged because I also happen to be on the scene, and I've been in the scene since I was 17. I turned 60 a week and a half ago, so that's a long time. Thank you. Big one, 60. Thanks. You brought me flowers last time. It was very sweet. So the idea of these is that it was started a really long time ago. I spoke to David and I said, listen, nothing like this is being done around the world even. Do you fancy doing something a little bit different? Like a psychology workshop, we can have people come and ask some questions. They can learn what they want to learn. And I want to do it from a much more ethical base and an educational base, because it really gets on my nerves when I'm watching some people teach and I think, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. And I do have very strong opinions. Even to the point once I actually stood up in a workshop and I said, you need to stop talking. And that it was such bad advice. It was so negative, and it was to do with dissociative identity disorder in his partner. Do you know what DID is? We used to call it split personality or multiple personalities. Quite a while ago, things change. We like to change names for everyone all the time. You can look at your watch and go, I don't know what I've got this week. It's totally different. So you've got a different name for it. And he actually stood up and said it's really fun if they tend to split or change in the middle of a scene. And I was like, and I said, well, what about consent? He went, no, it's fine, it's generic. They're a person. I went, no, they're not. No, they're not. If you know anyone with DID, they're very individual, important parts of their personality and psychology and well-being. And some of them might have different ages, some of them might have different feelings. And he said, no, it's fine. She's already agreed. I went, no, but they haven't. No, it's like, you need to stop talking. Like, it's really shocking. And when it got back to her, she was really upset about that as well, because she wouldn't always necessarily remember. But so shit happens even on the scene. I do quote if I'm referencing any form of research or anything as well, but I extra quote if I'm saying this is my personal opinion, because that's not backed by science. It's backed by experience or something else. And again, that's different. And the idea was, when we started them, and they were crazy busy, that we would just run them down, have a small chat at the end with 5 or 6 people, and then when it wasn't wanted anymore, I'd stop. But that was about, I can't even remember, 9 years ago. And this is probably the emptiest room I've had, because Lamb isn't that busy. So that's mad, isn't it? That it's just kept going for all these years. Keep coming in thinking, will I get anyone today? How will that go? Because, you know, we all have those normal insecurities, don't we? Or is it just me? But have those. And yeah, so it's always a Q&A, which is always interesting. Now, I have a question already asked anonymously, which I will cover. When I've done that, just want you to bear in mind, you can ask me anything about relationships, about kink, about mental health, about why are we the way we are. We can talk about all sorts of things related to any of this, anything that we do in any way. Or I've got this relationship problem, or how do you say I need to have this communication issue sorted? So all the questions that come up are absolutely okay. If I don't know the answer, I will just bullshit my way through it. I won't do that. I'll say, I don't know that one. That's a really good question, but touch wood. That better be wood, fucking hell. Anyone here superstitious? They don't often come up anymore. That's because I'm really old. But they do come up sometimes, but that's a great opportunity because I love to learn too. And I'm very interested in what other people have to say about it as well, because it's good to find out what we all think. So it's up to you to ask the questions. Normally it's an hour and a half. If you get too hot, go out. If you want to go to the loo, go out. If you want to get a drink and come back, go out. There's no hassle. Please be responsible for yourself and your well-being. If anything I say puts you in a state that you don't feel okay about, I fucking hate the word triggers. I really hate it. I prefer patterns and predictors, because if I say you trigger me, I give you the power. And everywhere outside of us has this power to make us feel not okay. Whereas if we understand our own patterns and our own predictors, and we understand what happens in our bodies, we can change that. And I prefer that because it empowers us rather than disempowers us. Because if we're on somewhere like FetLife and I write something, it's probably going to be something to do with sex or violence or something on some level. And people go, well, no, you need to have a trigger warning on it. No, none of my writing has trigger warnings on it. And I just say very clearly, please keep yourself safe. So if you're not okay, or you feel like you're not okay, you can also say, I need a bit of help, because on average, if someone's having a panic attack, it will take about 2 minutes, 3 minutes to get them out of it. On average, if I know your name as well, that helps. I'll keep walking up and down because the pillars a little bit as well. So I've already had one question, which for me is about non-monogamy. I don't like the term ethical non-monogamy. I really don't. And the reason I don't like it is because your ethics might really differ from mine. It's really important to me when we talk about these things that we get our ethics, our morals and our values sorted in our own lives to work out, why am I coming to this? What do I want out of it? We haven't got really hungry heart, because a hungry heart eats an awful lot of lies. When we're looking for something, that hungry heart goes, nom, 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 I'll have that. Or we're quite desperate maybe to play or to have a relationship or to find something. And then we don't always consider the other person or even ourselves actually, and it goes horribly wrong. And we have to be really accountable and responsible. I remember somebody coming into one of my workshops years ago and saying, you'll probably tell me the fucking same as every other cunt. And I was like, okay. Just call me a cunt, it's fine. Like, what's the problem? And, well, you know, when I'm under what? When I'm playing and I've gone under, I still don't know what under means. Or like, I'm like in a different, okay, right, I get what you're saying. When I come out of it, I tend to punch people in the face. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be that cunt. Don't do it. Like, either get yourself tied so you cannot physically do that, or get someone who's a switch and will fucking love it, potentially, but maybe not in that moment, get their consent, or work out what the fuck is going on for you before you start doing that. And be responsible, because I'm very much a submissive, I'm very much a cut queen. I'm more of an emotional masochist, but I like physical stuff as well. And a lot of it, and I can like ultra violence actually, so I tend to go maybe more extreme than some people will, and less extreme than some people will in different things. And I've definitely switched a lot in the past. That's not me anymore. I don't switch. But if somebody had done that to me, I think I would actually have wanted to kill them in that moment. It wouldn't have been ethical for me. It might have been ethical for them. So I prefer the word consensual non-monogamy. That we both agree on its phrasing, we both agree what it looks like, or we all agree, depending on how many there are, and we have a good idea. And on Thursday, I ran a workshop. So once a month, I also do a free workshop on Zoom for therapists, kinksters, anybody who wants to learn anything. And I covered situationships, friends with benefits, the science, the hormones, what's the difference between them and relationships that we develop, and what's the impact of them and how successful are they or not. And I did 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I probably could have gone on for about another fucking hour. Like, it's a really extensive subject. So it's really important to define what we are. I was kind of asked that some things have happened in a new non-monogamous consensual relationship. Some things have happened that maybe this couple thought wouldn't have happened, and they're really liking this person. There's a lot of emotions involved for them with this person. And then the question came, shit, we're all having these emotions. We've only done things 3, 4, 5 times. When's the right time to have the conversation? When is the right time to have a conversation? Anytime. That's a really good answer. Anytime you feel like it. And then the worry is, because we harp on about, because we really fucking do harp on about consent. Yeah, but what if they don't consent? We're taking it here. We cannot always consent about everything. We cannot always take that into account in every way. We can't. If you listen to my workshop on consent, I'll go through all the law, I'll go through everything that we talk about. But in the end, I will kind of say, consent doesn't exist in the way that we think it does. And it doesn't, because you cannot consent to your future. You don't know what impact this shit's going to have on you sometimes. You don't know, emotionally and or physically. I have injections in my hips where I've been thumped so much that both my bursas are quite impacted and they've split. And I have injections done regularly, for example, because of the ultraviolence I like when I was younger, being bent over. I didn't know about that medically or biologically at that time, so I couldn't have consented to that. Plus, we don't know sometimes the emotional turmoil that will come from something. One of the things I was saying on Thursday, especially in situationships, because the issue with situationships is they're not defined. They're not defined. If you're in something where you've had lots of conversations and you've got consent going, it is a form of relationship. You might want to call it a situationship. However, that is more defined. Situationships are not defined. So that definition is really important. And also when we've got definitions and we have conversations, like, where is this going? What do you think? What are the limits here? How are we going to play this? What do we do if and when feelings develop? What do we do if and when we want to do things that we didn't think we were going to do? How do we handle the feelings that we have from doing something we always said we wouldn't do? Or when something changes? When you have those conversations as soon as possible and up front, everyone knows where they stand. And actually, we feel better for it. It tends to be, I'm sorry to be very specific about gender here, because I do not believe in just 2 genders. However, the research is very gender-based, male, female, so I apologise for that. I can't change that. And it is changing slowly but surely. On average, women tend to say first, where are we going? What's happening in this relationship? What do we both want? Men tend to ask a little later, or don't even want to be asked that question sometimes. We want to just make assumptions and move forward, but it's not all, clearly. So I never say all, always. That's just an interesting set of statistics. Who likes to be asked here or not? It's like when you go into something, even if it's play, do you want to know? Like if things start to change and you're developing a relationship, who here would ask fairly early? Okay, so why would you, like you said quite loudly, why would you ask early?
Because I want to know if things are going to change. If I discuss playing with someone and they're not interested in anything further and I might not play with them because why would I put myself in that position to get hurt?
That's something I always come in with. Look, I have slept with probably nearer to 1,000 people than I have 100, right? So there are lots of names from me in my 60 years, and I will welcome all of them, own every single one. Call me what you like, horse, slut, whatever, absolutely. Loved my time, haven't had any regrets. What's important though is, even for me now, is I'm much more Demi. I want a connection with somebody before anything happens. I don't really want to just play randomly. It brings up a lot of emotions. I'm not looking for my firsts. Believe me, if you're with me, it's not going to be a first, right? But it might be my last. Not forever, but it might be my last with you in some way. If I've got 18 months to use it fucking probably is my last, isn't it? Come on. That is a joke. You can smile at that, right? Everyone was like, Holding my breath. Fuck. Can I laugh at that or not? Yeah, breathe out. You're all good. So, laughs happen as well. And we do get older and things change. We can't do things in the same ways. And I do think having conversations is grabbing an opportunity and knowing where you are. Because we invest a lot of time sometimes in people, and then our feelings get hurt. On average in situationships, again, 2 definitions, apologies, I won't keep apologising because it is just the research. On average, women tend to get more hurt than men in situationships, and they regret them and tend to come out of them quicker. Around 50% of situationships, if they have a shit ton of clarity, which would say to me that they're not situationships anymore, carry on going. When there isn't any clarity and things go horribly wrong, it's kind of split between that extra 50% as a 30-20, of 30 end in disaster and you're not even friends anymore, and 20 end up with some kind of friendship, but it's an impacted friendship. And the difference between that 50 and that 50 is conversation.
Sorry, you said 50% of them they don't have that clarity, so they have clarity, so they're not situationship. So what do you define between the gap between situationship and something else?
So a situationship, if you look at the 3 or 4 people who've done major pieces of research on it, is defined by its ambiguity, by not having conversations. It's very unlikely that you've met their friends. It's very unlikely that you've met their family. It's very unlikely that you know an awful lot about them, and you certainly wouldn't go to their work or have anything to do with them. You could argue a lot of relationships wouldn't do that up front as well, and that's right. But it's the ambiguity around it. And it's also when are we meeting again? Yeah, maybe, see you next week or something, and then something else comes along. Whereas when we're kind of dating and working on relationships, we do have discussions about what we are, what is in the future, what is happening. And I think the way you come into it is really important, how you ask those questions, because especially when we're scared, I think it's okay to say, this fucking conversation terrifies me, the one I'm about to have, because I do have some emotions here. And you've got to remember, when we first meet someone, our brains are fucked up. Honestly, if you want a definition of insanity, it's love or lust. It's fucking nuts, right? And you can't keep it going. It is impossible for your brain to keep it going. When we first meet someone, we talk about red flags. Fuck me, that's a misnomer. What colour is love and what colour is lust? They're both fucking red. How are you supposed to see them? We need to look for green flags. We need to look for a texture or a feel or a nuance or a different idea of them. When we do what we do, who here plays in BDSM terms ever? The amount of chemicals that come up in your bodies, let alone if you're just having fucking sex. It doesn't even have to be sexual. It can just be play. The amount of chemicals that are stimulated in your body will fuck your head up. We have these agreements of, no, we won't do feelings. Good luck with that. Because you think you have the power to control your hormones like that. I'm sorry, that's some kind of superpower if you've got that shit. Because most of us cannot most of the time. You cannot control the hormones that come up from this. Even fucking orgasm in its basic principle. If you've got a penis and you've got a vagina, going for the classics here, not so much anal, right? It's slightly different. But if you're going for that, the orgasm kind of tells the vagina owner, you're okay. The orgasm says to the vagina owner, I am yours. I belong to you. And to the penis owner, it says, you are mine. Fucking predestined for him to have shit tons of shagging and for you to have less if you're a woman. Clearly not, right? We've got better brains than that nowadays. We think differently and we can think through these things. But to say, I guarantee I won't catch feelings unless you have an extreme form of antisocial personality disorder, like psychopathy or anything along those lines, or you might be somebody who is very asexual, grey sexual, which means I'm not going to get feelings around these things, and I also don't want sex. Of course, asexual might be some feelings, but no sex. Or it could be that you maybe have some form of autism, and actually when you get to quite a strong end of the spectrum, we can be quite absent of feelings. I tend to not use fancy psychological words because there are loads in there that I could use, but what's the point? We just need to understand what we're all saying. So feelings occur. So how you discuss them and what you do sets up a really good precedent, especially if you want the next 6 months. Who here met somebody, maybe, played with them, had a little bit of fun, a little bit of sex or not, even if you didn't, and thought, yeah, this is just going to be casual. Anyone did think that ever at one stage? Yeah? And did that ever then develop into something? Yeah, so for some of you, I'll tell you what, if you've lied about having a fucking orgasm, you've got a shit 3 years coming up. because you're going to have to confront that. I remember speaking to a client once who said that she met her wife. They'd met years before, and she thought it was going to be casual, so she lied to her wife and said, yeah, I orgasm every time, and she's making all these right noises. They fucking got serious. They've been together for 5 years. She was still lying because she'd started that lie. Really had. And I see a lot of people in my therapy room, and again, it's quite interesting when you do get to penis owners and vagina owners, really, of like so many penis owners who say, all the women I sleep with do definitely orgasm. And I'm like, it's just statistically impossible from penetration. That 70-30 split still exists. That's what the research says. And it's the same for a lot of us if we genuinely asked in the room. Most women do not come through penetration. They come from clitoral stimulation. Most vagina owners, some of them are women, some of them are not. So it's really important to be fucking honest about that, because I don't want to inherit it. I don't want to inherit your lies. If he's thinking or she's thinking, oh yeah, everyone does it, it's really easy, I'm now the one that says, no, it doesn't work that way. And it's really important that we're honest. I mean, it's really important we're honest about our feelings. It's really important we're honest about where we are and what we expect. Because the other problem with relationships when we set them up, whether they're just play, whether they're casual, whether they're serious, is it's expectations that fuck you over totally. Who here has met someone and thought, oh yeah, no, this is going to be good. It's going to be great. Can't wait. Oh my God, they seem like such a nice person. They're going to do all these fantastic things to me. Fuck me, am I going to have a good time or whatever? And then you come to it and you're utterly disappointed because you built it up in your head, or you hoped for something in your head, or you didn't fucking discuss it properly. And it's really difficult because, of course, we do pick up play sometimes. A lot of us do, like if you go into a club or you do something, that's also very different to having someone in your bedroom, in your home, in your life, very differently. What are your opinions on how quickly we should have those conversations and whether you think you can control feelings? What do you think? It's what, sorry?
Straight away.
Straight away. You think the conversation's up front. And it's difficult, isn't it? It is difficult because if you literally meet someone and say, hi, really pleased to meet you. I'd like to fall in love. I actually want to get married. I want 3 of your children. And this is what I'm after. And I want you to be this and that. I want you to be all these things. By the way, these are my mental and physical health issues. And this is everything. And here's a manual on how to sort me out. I mean, it's a bit intense, isn't it? But I think we can do little things as we go. I'm a big believer in, I've spoken about it before, in write your own Haynes manual. If you don't know what a Haynes manual is, for those of you who are older, you'll know what a Haynes manual is. When you used to buy a car or you used to buy a bike or anything, it came with a manual. You had to buy it. But it was by a company called Haynes. And in it you would find out everything about what you needed, what battery you needed, what fan belt, really old-fashioned shit, you know, pair of tights or something instead, or an egg in your radiator, all sorts of things. But it would tell you how to take this car or this bike apart, and it would tell you how to put it back together. And they're really good. I have my own one written on me, for me. I'm really interested every so often to kind of update my chapters or so. Now, it's a bit mental if I say, oh, I'm so glad we met. Here's my Haynes manual. Can you read it? Again, too much, too fast. But it might be, just because I've referenced it and I know it, when somebody says, and it helps us when we're catching those feelings, that's what we say nowadays, I've caught feelings. It's not a fucking virus. It's inside out. Like, it's come from you. And it's not a bad thing. It's how you handle your shit that's good or bad. You have a right to be angry. You don't have a fucking right to be aggressive. That's a major difference. And when I'm dealing with kids, especially on the spectrum, it's teaching emotions. Anger is a great emotion. We all say it's shit. If I say to people, would you rather be happy, angry, sad, scared? They go, I want to be happy all day. I mean, you fucking mental, won't you? That's not normal. That's Stepford wife level stuff. What I want is to have the appropriate emotional response for the appropriate situation. I'm not going to hurt your feelings. Like if we just had really bad play or really bad sex, I don't want to tell you that you were shit, because that's not true. Something about this didn't work for me. It does not blame, it's very different, but it's quite grown up to try and have those conversations. I've only been managing for the last 6 months. Fuck me, if I'm dying, I'm not going to do very well, am I? I've only got a few months left to have them. And again, that is a joke. So it's, I'm going to find out I've got a trapped nerve, I'm sure. So it's really, it's hard, but these conversations are worth having. And if the other person, and it's really important to turn around and say, especially if you're a couple having a conversation with one person, you've got to be aware of the power of two, and you've got to be aware of that couple's privilege. That we would like to have this conversation. You can opt out at any time. If it's too much, just say, would you rather do it by text? Would you rather have the conversation? You can ask all the questions. It's up to you. Just be aware of your power. But it's never too early, but it's often too late. If it's too early, it's because it's too much. So can we start a conversation about this? Can we? And others, anyone ever fallen in love at first sight? A few people have. Like, you're like, fuck me, that's it, I'm done. That person is it. And it's quite overwhelming for some. Or you might fall in, you might fall in lust at first sight. God, Jesus, when I talk about someone from my past, oh my God, body of an Adonis, massive, this particular person was around, I've fallen in love with multiple genders in different ways. But when you're talking about really strong, overwhelming, takes over your life type emotions, he was it. Best player I've ever had, best sex I've ever had, fantastic guy, really intelligent, really successful. He's an utter cunt. He lies like nothing. I don't want to be with him because he's not a very nice human. Because we've been together for quite a few months and I find out he's got a pregnant wife at home. Absolutely, I'm not that person. I do not do those ethics. I'm out, I'm done. Which is really hard when all those feelings are involved. But we also have to understand that feelings are feelings, they're not facts. Plus, those feelings that we're feeling that are very intense will also change and they will simmer the fuck down. So when we start to fall in love, we get a massive, it's really interesting, so as to what it does in our brains, or if we start to fall in lust. And it's why we've also got to be careful about, oh my God, that's it, you're the one, I love you, we love you. That might be what your whole body is chemically telling you in that moment. Anyone here ever broken up with somebody? Ever? And when you first met them, did you think a lot of them and you loved them and you liked them? And it changed. And there are more chemicals involved in this. However, our chemicals also tell us a lot. That person is quite right for us in a way. If we haven't had those feelings, if we haven't responded, it's good to take a risk as well. And we need to keep a little bit of ourselves safe within ourselves. I'm not saying hold back, but just be aware that, can I handle this? What if it does break up? How am I going to feel? What am I going to do? So I don't know if that answers the person's questions enough, and if not, they can grab me afterwards and we can see where it goes. But it's never kind of too early, depending on its intensity, but it's often too late. Who's got a different question that they would like to ask today? You do.
I'm sorry if this upsets anyone, I won't use words again. How would you support well, there are a couple of people in my life that have had false accusations made about them previously, and recently it's causing issues for each of these people. How do you support people dealing with that?
The problem is, when we talk about false accusations, we're not a court of law. And I always say to you, especially if you are a white, middle-aged man, and I really mean this at you, by birth, it doesn't matter if you have transitioned, it will be used against you. It doesn't matter if you have, it does matter, because respecting where somebody is and who they are and their gender is fucking important. However, and I'm really going to say this, there is always going to be a threat to you in a different way, because also, traditionally, much more of a perpetrator. It's all right, you're fine, I was just going to put it to a bit. Have a plan of when I am accused. Have a plan as well of when something happens to me, regardless of who you are, because something will happen at some stage. When I talk to anybody, one thing I will say as well, so in a scene, what's happened, who here is, when you've done a scene or you've done something that's gone fucking horribly wrong? Whether you're the top or the bottom, it's gone horribly wrong. Your emotions have gone fucking whacked, somebody's done something awful to you, you've done something awful to them. We tend to be in a little bit of a cancel culture at the moment that says you're out the scene. America is trying to change that. Tasha and a few other organisations are trying to do much more internal conversations and trying to work it out, because we find people, we are judge, jury, we are forensics, we are opinionated, we have really strong opinions. Oh yeah, they did that because they said that. What if it was about you? Did they do it or didn't they do it? It's really hard. Respect. When somebody comes into my room and says this awful thing has happened to me, I'm fucking there and listening and present, because it's fucking awful. I remember getting the most horrible email once about my dom's just raped me. It was absolutely awful. And I want to call him out and I want to sort these things out. And when she told me the whole story, this was a male-female experience, He didn't rape her. Now, not by law and not by even other standards or protocols that we look at. They'd always agreed that if she went into a little headspace, that they wouldn't have sex. In the middle of a very heavy session where she wasn't little at all, she said, I need a wee. He went, go for a wee. And then he said, actually, leave the door open. I'm going to watch you wee. They'd never done that before. First bit of advice, don't bring something brand new into the middle of a scene if you haven't done it before. If you don't know it, talk about it, go, that's a good idea, jot it down while they're having a fucking wee and then bring it up 2 days later. I was thinking when we went for a wee the other day, I'd quite like to have watched you. Wait, please wait. He watched her. He watched her wipe herself. And as soon as she wiped herself, she went boof, and she went straight into little. Nothing was clear from her physiologically that she'd gone into little. Nothing was clear to him. She didn't say, he didn't know. So he carried the scene on. Who is to blame there? Both. Both and neither. Both and neither. For me, go on, what you say?
It's the very risk.
It's a risk, isn't it, that we take? And for me, that's a clusterfuck. That's what it is. I feel so sorry for her. She experienced that. Yeah, she has. And yep. And he didn't think about, I'm putting something new in, it could change her headspace. He didn't look and check. Everybody is a little bit to blame there, and that's what's so awful about that sort of situation. Whereas she has now told everyone that he's raped her, and he's saying, no, I haven't. I don't really know. Oh my God, who do you believe when you don't know the ins and outs of the story? And it's why in court we don't have a lot of he said, she said, they said, she said, he said cases. Because they very rarely get found in any way, shape or form that's good for anyone. And that's not right either. If you have suffered or gone through something, that's also not right. But I've got a big writing on this. There's such a difference between justice, between what's criminal, between law, and what you can prove and what you can't prove, and how you feel about those things. That's where it gets really complex, because we think the law should back us up. They should deliver our justice. It doesn't work that way. The scene tends to do that, though. We just tend to come down on the side of what we think is justice. And I've watched some very big names on the scene, really big names over my 43 years, be outed as total fucking abusers, as absolute pieces of shit from that perspective. I've had some of their people, and it's not just one, I've had 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 in my therapy room, telling me the things that this person's done. And I'm sitting there going, fucking hell. And if I say anything publicly, I've broken all sorts of rules. If I name them, I've broken all sorts of rules. I can go to the police if I'm worried about that person and say, can you know this person's name, please? Can we keep it in your database? I'm reporting a crime as a very generic thing. They're not going to follow it up because I'm a third-party hearsay. I wasn't there, I don't know. But that's something I can do, only with their consent and permission, sometimes without if it's bad enough. Big conversations, that is, as well. So it's really difficult to prove all these things. However, on the scene, you must have met somebody in your time or heard about somebody that you wouldn't touch with a barge pole already at some point, or that there are rumours about them, or that you hear things, or you meet someone and someone says, oh, don't go out with that person, don't meet them, you should see the way they play. And you go, no, it's going to be fine. I mean, do listen to things, take care, go slow. Nothing is ever proven. I've had 2 clients accused of pretty bad things that I've known about. One was that, again, not going to go into graphic details, again, both of these are heterosexual relationships, interestingly, but not necessarily with very straight people in any way, shape or form. One was, please will you wake me up when you come back and wake me up while I'm asleep and have sex with me. He says, are you sure you haven't wanted me to do that before? Is it okay? Double checks, triple, quadruple. We keep going. Check, 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 check. I'm 100% sure it's really what I want. Now, for me, I'm not going to do that in the same evening. That's where he went wrong. She's asking for something. Be very careful, because it could be the mood she's in. It could be something that's happened that day. And she could be any gender right now, any sexuality. Gender is irrelevant here. we can wake someone up and say, I'm going to wake you up by, I've put 10 needles in your balls, or I've put something inside you, or anything. And that whole waking up, actually, she went along with it. I do say went along with it. Actually, she had a terrible time. And the next morning when they came in, I saw them both. And what she said was, it was fucking horrific. It was a clusterfuck. I shouldn't have said it was okay. I really regret it. And then within 3 months, every month she's going to, she's saying, he raped me. Now what do we do? Because I actually witnessed the next morning. Who do I believe? What do I do? I'm not police. I'm not forensic. I'm not a lawyer. I'm the person who's listened to their story. Had another client who showed me all the texts. Again, get things written down. It's always a good idea. Look, it can be used against you, but it's more likely to be used in defense of you as well. He was with a very drunk ex. They'd been DS, a lot of power exchange. He took her home because she wasn't in a good way. Hiya. You can come in if you want. Do I look that scary? Like, come on. Like, it's very hot in here as well, isn't it? A very drunken situation. She strips off totally and is very much rubbing up and down and against him and saying, fuck me, have sex with me. He's saying, no, we're finished, we're done, I'm not doing that, that's a really bad idea. I don't want to. And of course, in the end, he didn't acquiesce. I thought you were going to say he did, didn't he? He didn't. And he slept in his clothes, fell asleep, got up next morning and said, listen, I really care for you, but I can't do this again because it's going to put us in a very dangerous predicament and situation. And again, she wrote the next morning and said, I'm really sorry I did that to you. I went too far out of line. I was completely pissed. However, within 3 days, she was also saying that he had taken his clothes off and he had sex with her and she was too drunk to consent. Also, if anyone here drink quite a lot? Yeah, right. Or take drugs. I'm not going to tell on any of you, I promise. Right, so a lot of us take something that impacts our well-being, impacts our mood. And that can be things that are even over the counter as well. It's amazing what affects us over the counter. Like if you take a lot of hay fever meds, potentially it can make you a lot drier. For example, if you own a vagina, it can make you a lot drier. And people say, oh, are you really into this? You don't seem to be into it. No, I don't understand what's happening in my body. It's hay fever meds, antihistamines. Every drug has an impact on our body. So it's really good to know what is impacting us. Can two people consent if they're both totally pissed? And who is to blame? Why do we blame one, especially if they're the top? If they're both pretty inebriated, who did what, when? Again, it's really hard to say. So I think we can listen to people, we can hear their story, but be very careful. There is no smoke without fire on the scene, that's what we all say, don't we? Well, I always had a funny feeling about that person, or yeah, you've got to be really careful, but people do say things. And one of the things I've learned as a therapist and just as a mum or human being, a partner, is what you tell me is your truth. I'm with you on it. I understand it. I can't change what's happened factually. If we're blaming them the whole time and saying they did this and they did that, we're a permanent victim. We have to look at where the power lies. How do we get it back? What can we change? What's happened? And what can I do? What can I do differently? What can I do right now for myself? Because that person might need stringing up, but there is nothing that anyone can do about it. I had an incident when I was very early 20s where I was put in hospital for 3 days. I know I was raped, I can't remember the sex because I was so unconscious because they'd pulled my legs out from under me, they were on a shit ton of drugs, they dragged me down 2 flights of stairs and my head had hit every step. So I was out of it. And then when I woke up a couple of days later in hospital, my partner at the time, because this was his best friend, he was off his face. It's amazing how many drugs you can take and still get a hard on, believe me. So, and different things. So he was completely off his face. He's still guilty of what he did. I can't do anything because like the fucking film, you know, in that film where she's the ex-nurse, what's it called? When she captures him, Kathy Bates is in it, and she breaks both his, misery, they break one of his ankles. So what they've now done is I now cannot go to the police unless I want my partner and his best mate to get into trouble. And we're talking about a very young woman. I'm 20, I'm at uni, I'd come back down to see my partner. I'm like, no, I'm okay, I'll be in the house. It doesn't matter that he's off his tits, it'll be fine. That complacent, youthful, I'm fine type, actually no. And what I learned is don't be alone when someone's like that. And I can change what I did there, but that's all I can change, really. That's my power. That's what I can do. But they took away my choice. And then he walks away, well, he limps away. He limps away and having that experience after it happened. I don't know if that was enough for me. I would rather that other people knew his name and he was prosecuted. There was a lot of evidence. But I chose not to, and the CPS couldn't do a lot, because the CPS can also decide to prosecute without your consent. Do you know that as well in kink? If there is evidence against you, like marks on another person's body, because you cannot consent to violence against you, the law's a lot more complex than this, a lot more complex, in that what it does is that there is a definition between ABH and GBH in the UK. If anything hits ABH, it's kind of okay, kind of. If it goes slightly above, it's now not okay. And that's what this particular, especially when we get this 1861 Act involved, you cannot consent to violence. And the Spanner case made a really big deal with that as well. So again, if you cane someone and you get them to open up and bleed and you do different things, neither of you can consent, you could both be arrested potentially. So just fucking be aware of what you're doing and be aware of the law and be aware of how to resuscitate somebody and how to do all these things instead of just saying, I just want to learn how to use a whip.
Just a remark at this point, this is very different in different countries.
Very different in different countries. Yes. Yep. And most of America, you cannot. There aren't many places in Europe that you can. Like, it's quite interesting.
It really depends on the state.
Yeah, but the majority of states you still can't. Nevada, Las Vegas, those sort of areas you can. They bring back some really old laws. So it's, yeah. But however, if you're in the UK and you do it, you could still be arrested.
To understand correctly, are there any things we play that people have together that leaves a mark? Is it legal in UK?
Well, it's more than trifling or transient, and it has to come under GBH, not ABH. However, who here has ever had a love bite that's lasted for 5 days because that fucker sucked so hard and bit? Yeah. Yeah, and it often is. Like, if you've got a daughter or a son and you look at their partners, again, all sorts of genders with each other, gender's irrelevant, when, like, that is a fucking, that's more than trifling or transient mark, but nobody does anything about it. And when you look at the Spanner case, you've got to look at nails being nailed into cocks. It was fairly fucking serious what they were doing. It's what most of us will call quite edge play. But the police had already invested too much into investigating it. So again, how do we support people? It depends what they want. So I'd ask them, for me, I'd be like, what support do you need and want? Because then you need to work out, can I give that? Can you fight for them on the scene? Oh, that's an interesting one. Who wants to put their name next to somebody who says they didn't do it? A lot of us feel very cautious about that. Unless...
Both these issues happened a really long time ago.
Right.
I'm just getting re-triggered in a way when recent things are coming up.
And that's a big one, isn't it? You did that. Who here did something in their 20s that they regret? Some of you are still in your 20s, right? But yeah. You know, that can be physical, can be sexual, can be emotional, can be many things, can't it? Do you change? Anyone here in their 50s or 60s? Do you still do things you regret? Yes, but maybe a little bit less often. You might learn from some things, but not all of us do. We're always going to do something that we regret, and something always goes wrong. When we hear stories, we are never going to know the full truth. We're not. It's impossible to know what's actually happened. If you've made a mistake, I mean, I don't know about you, I'm fucking glad things like X, Facebook, and was not around when I was 16 to 25. I'm fucking grateful, because if I'd have put that shit online, you see it, don't you, now with CEOs or big people in companies to say, you wrote this when you were 15, you are a prick, you're now going to lose your job. Look, if they haven't changed, fucking too right. Especially if it's hateful, if it's racist, if it's against any religion, if it's against any colour, anything, yeah, absolutely, if you haven't fucking changed. Could that person have changed? Yeah, they can. They really can. And if you want to know about change, one of the best films to watch, now I can't fucking remember it, so everyone get on their phones quickly, it's a really interesting film, and it's a real story about a deep South Texas type based school. They had to have something called a charrette. Best of Enemies. Really fucking good film, because it's based on real life. This white guy is the head of the Ku Klux Klan. He's the head of the fucking Ku Klux Klan. I mean, Is he racist? Yes. Like, very nasty human being. Like, gives me goosebumps about the things that he said he'd done. Shocking and horrific. Absolutely not okay. And then, awesome, this woman's born in America. Oh, I love that. Oh, she's not really American. Yeah, she is. She's also Black, African. She's an activist and a leader. And they're the head of these two opposite, in a charrette, you bring 5 on each panel, for and against, because basically what had happened at the time, so I'm going to use their words at their time, right? So their words, they called it the coloured school, that's the name, had burnt down. It was such a fucking mess. And the white school had everything. So what she said is, fine, we'll share the fucking school. Logical to me, not if you have a problem and you're head of the Ku Klux Klan. What happens in this charrette, where they come in and out of meetings, you have to have a majority vote to make it happen. It came down to one last vote, which was his. And he voted for it because he made a friend in this amazing woman, and they became best of friends. They went to universities together. They talked about how to convert, how to change, how to look at racism and what people do. And they were these amazing friends. He stood up at her funeral and he said he was going to miss her, like, so much. And you can read about them. It's really interesting. So can people change? Yes. Does everyone change? Do they fuck us like? Some people come out of prison. Some people say they've changed and they don't change. And they do things for all the wrong reasons. So we're never going to know fully. All we can ask is, what is it that you need? What is it that you want? That person you said triggered, that's a really old pattern coming up. They can go and see someone professionally. They can go and ask for some help. Are you going to put yourself out there and say, I support them, they've changed? Will you put your name to that? That's one option, isn't it? Are you just going to listen to them privately? Are you going to watch their relationships and see what they do and see if it does come up again? How much have they learned? I run a cock workshop. It's not what you think it is, I'm really sorry. It's clear on consent in kink about the law, so fully about those things. And often people say, oh, this person's broken someone's consent. Can they come to your workshop and tick off that they've done it? I'm not going to tick them off and say that I now believe that this person knows what consent is. I've run workshops before a club, and someone's gone and broken consent within 10 minutes. People break consent all the time. It's how much, what it means, and are we willing to learn from it? What am I willing to do? What does this mean? And we can't, how do they prove it unless they're back playing? I've learnt my lesson. How do we know? Who here is a bit of a serial killer fanatic or fan? Do you ever read any of the books or the psychology or forensics? Does anyone do that quite a lot? No, just me, I'm the weirdo, okay. So, a few of us, yeah. What's interesting is your serial killer or your serial rapist or your serial murderer, whoever they are, doesn't do it to everybody. That's the other problem. They can have a fucking wife and 2 children at home. More likely statistically to be men. There are some really serious female serial killers as well. And we've got to look at, there are serial killers who pick on sex workers, transgender, all sorts of things. We've really got to look at it. It's lots of people in different ways. And on average, they've got quite a normal family life at home and probably a couple of children. So don't do it to everybody all the time. How do we know why they go for that person and what actually happens? I'm not asking you all to go, fuck me, I could be with a serial killer. Well, it's good to have a plan, like, what do I do with this person? How do I feel about this? What's going on here when we're really pulled up by a lot of our emotions? Because it's quite easy to manipulate another human being. Right, nah, it's not easy. It is. It's quite easy to manipulate another human being if you also know what you're doing. And some people do. When you've got somebody who maybe has more along an antisocial personality base, like we talk about narcissism, we talk about love bombing, we talk about somebody really pulling us in and making us feel a certain way. Anyone ever experienced that or seen it or had it in any way, shape or form? Yeah, and it's really overwhelming because you're like, oh my God, where am I? Who is this person? I really like them, and do I, and how do I feel? And we can feel really insecure, and it's really hard. It's really hard to pull away, but you've got to love yourself first, without a doubt. So are you willing to put your name to them? Do you know what your boundaries are? Because you're saying, how do I support them? I would rather come, what are your boundaries in supporting them? Because I also know you a little bit, right? So I'm going to cheat a little bit here because I do know this person. Can I talk about you nice? Yes. I know this person is a people pleaser, massively. I know that they have a hungry heart and they're always giving and want another person probably to feel better at their expense. So for me, in your situation, I would be saying, what are your fucking boundaries around supporting someone else? And how much do you want to give if it then blew up and it went wrong, if it stayed quite neutral, or if it went well? And that's pre-morteming. I love pre-morteming. If you haven't seen me before, it's one of my favourite words. What in this scenario could go absolutely wrong? Have 3 or 4 suggestions around it. I'm going to meet this person for play for the first time. I'm going to have this conversation with somebody. Like we were talking about a couple earlier. I'm going to have this conversation with somebody. What could go wrong in it? And one of my solutions for each of those things, they react strongly. They don't react at all. That's 2 extremes. What are your solutions? What could you do? But also, what if it all goes right? Do it positively as well. Don't just go for the negative always, because you don't need to. Some things work out.
But the term pre-mort has the word death in it.
Yes, it does.
Now.
Yeah, loud. Death tells us a lot of things, and that is a potential outcome. Fuck me, I sound so miserable and morbid today. I mean, I think I might be allowed to because it's Tuesday, but we'll see. It really comes from NASA, pre-morteming, and that is that when they send their astronauts up, you have to do a bit of engineering, and they teach you to do that bit of engineering with both your eyes open, one eye open, the other eye open, and both eyes shut, because you are statistically almost guaranteed to have moments of blindness when you're in space. Because of gravity, because of tears, because of how much we have, it all infects and bungs back upwards. Fuck, you go blind. They know what to do. They treat it and it goes away. But you've got to be able to react fairly quickly, because if you're already outside and you're in your suit and everything, like, the likelihood of that happening too often isn't great. So let's plan for every solution, but let's also plan positively. Layout, plan, idea, whatever you want to do. I don't mind what you call it. NASA call it pre-mortem. You can watch some TED Talks on it. It's a really good thing to do, because we also know, like in sport and things, when we can visualize things going well, it's often better for us. When we can see how we will react and what we will do, it's better for us. If you've got somebody who has like a mental block or something, and we had a girl in the gym the other day. Fuck me, I don't know how this happened. She did a round off. Do you know what a round off is? So it's like 2 hands on the floor and you snap your feet back down and jump onto them. She then does a back handspring, which means she lands, she literally is going backwards. She lands on her hands and she flips her feet down and she does a full twist somersault in the air. I mean, anyone who throws himself backward, like, I've got quite a lot of them. How the fuck do you think you're going to land on the floor? I admire you, right? It's all taught bit by bit. They've all got the skills to do it. This kid has landed this skill 9 times already in the gym that day. All of a sudden, you hear this crack. And she just goes down. Now, there are a lot of rules. I mean, we also have individuals in gyms, and actually when you're cheerleading, you'll watch the whole team go straight around them, turn their back to them so the audience can't see them. They absolutely cover. And in this scenario, it's my daughter who runs the gym. She hears the crack. One of the kids looks up. She's on the floor saying, ow, 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 on her knees. And my daughter said, everyone out, just go out. She's broken both bones here. They've snapped clean, to the point where her knee to her foot bent in the middle entirely. It's really bad. And she ended up having a major piece of surgery. She's also only 11. She's already now walking on it. It's incredible. But the muscle wasted, she's a world-class athlete. These kids win Summit and Worlds every year. She's a world champion athlete, at least 2 to 3 years running. This is a very serious break. It'll come back in no time. It's a bone. It's probably better than a muscle strain or anything else as well. And that's interesting when we're playing as well. How quickly do we recover and what do we do? Can't tell you what happened. You can look at the video 20 times. It doesn't make sense. She landed slightly on that foot first, which is slightly off, but anything about it, there was nothing wrong with this at all. Shit happens sometimes. It really does, out of nowhere. And then she wants to try out, go back in the teams, and we're like, come on then, you just can't do anything right now. Get out there, just throw it. And it's really important that she gets back when she does start tumbling again, because what will happen in her head is we count, I call it my bricks and feathers, really, approach. It's really easy to pick up negativity. Your brain is hardwired to pick up negativity. It is soft-wired to pick up the positive, the feathers, the okayness. And even in really bad situations, there's still things to learn and good things that we can look at and find. But then I really hate, I don't know about you, I hate that cunt who turns around and says, you've been through something really bad, but don't worry, what lesson have you learned from it? Fuck off, I don't want to learn a lesson that way. Who does? It's not nice. Oh, but it's made you so resilient. Well, I'd rather not be resilient then. However, there's a truth in that as well. Psychologically, we do learn from everything. Some of us well, some of us not so well, maybe. So it's all about our own resilience and our own approaches and different things that we can go with. So that pre-morteming and planning just comes out of nowhere sometimes. We can't think of every scenario. I want you to think of every scenario because I know you. And I want you to think of every scenario because for me, it isn't whether that person's okay, because that's all that's in your mind. How can I support them? Whereas I would rather you went in with, as someone who knows you, and this isn't therapy, what am I willing to do? What will it look like? What will that cost me? What gain will I get from it? What harm might it do to me? What harm might it do to them? Just have a more general view, because you're not in it at the moment. Your picture is all about them and their suffering. Anyone here heard the spoon analogy when we talk about disability? Spoons? We all heard of it? So the disability principle here is that we have a limited amount of spoons and every day. So like you might have 10 spoons and that's cost me 1, that's cost me 3, that's cost me 7. Fuck, I'm in debt. And we can't really pay it forward or do anything with it. It's a lot more complex than that. But it's really interesting as a principle because we have a limited amount of energy. Some of us have so much energy, it's crazy. We do, in every way, for different reasons. I'm somebody who's got diagnoses, especially around neurodivergence, and I have a shit ton of energy. I really do. However, there's the odd time I just go, oh my God, all my batteries have gone, and I'm down. And it's quite hard. I need to withdraw from people and recharge myself in my own way, but that's only every so often. When we give too much, when we're people pleasers, we've got to be really careful because we keep giving away our spoons. There's a lovely picture that I've got up as the kink shrink on FetLife of this person who's made out of puzzle pieces, and they've got one puzzle piece missing, just one. And this person has probably 90% of their puzzle pieces missing, but they're holding out another piece to the one who's got one missing. Which one are you? I know I'm the person that's likely to keep giving. Who here is a bit of a giver and people pleaser? I mean, we can be as tops, we can be as bottoms because we keep giving. Like tops get drop. Sub drop is not just for subs, it's for everybody in life. Like it's fucking fallacy to turn around and say that, oh, how do I look after the submissive? Fuck off. How do you look after each other? What's your agreement? Who needs it? And also, because I watch our kids get it. We come back from 2 weeks in America. They've been to Disney, God knows how many times, in between at the gym for about 4 to 5 hours a day. They're fucking shattered. They've come out as world champions, twice probably, if we can fit both events in. Jesus Christ, they're on a high. We walk around Disney and people go, oh my God, it's so-and-so and so-and-so. Can we have your photos, please? They're like fucking stars. It's unreal. Because if you go to Disney at that time of year, don't. It's just for the cheerleaders. And they're known. And they're all these photographs. And it really fits. And they come home to their mum going, how much washing have you got? And they're done, how much washing? And what have you done? And have you done your homework? And they really hit a crash. That's the same drop as we get after playing. It's no different. If you've ever done a show, if you've ever done some singing or been in a band or done something, and then you stop it, you get a drop afterwards. So we need to negotiate, what do you want from this? What do I want? What can I give? What can't I give? And I'm asking you to do that. What can I do? What can I give? Which sounds like I'm asking you to be quite selfish. I'm not. I'm just trying to take you towards that because I know you started here. How do I support them? They're in a really bad place. What do I do? What are you capable of doing? What can you do? Because often it is, go and see a fucking professional. Go and get some support and help. Speak to people. Get a team around you. Get groups around you. Don't just have one person because you can't just keep giving all the time. So for me, I would go that way with you. And it's also, the biggest one is I'm going to go public and say this person is absolutely okay now. That's quite a big ask. I don't know, I wasn't there. How do I guarantee? Because actually, if they do it again, and I had a part in that, I'm not feeling okay about that. So how far are you willing to go and what does it look like? Is it just an ear to bend? I reached my limit last weekend. I had my birthday celebrations. I had one daughter come home, slightly inebriated, I should say. I'm not drunk. I think you and I got a different definition of what drunk is, love. That was my first thing. She's very emotional when she's drunk. She's not fully drunk. She's not inebriated in that she's vomiting on the floor and she can't walk. But for me, drunk means you're impacted by taking something. And she's emotionally impacted. So I spent quite a few hours with her in a really bad place. Then another friend turns up, they're talking about their situation right now in a pretty bad place. And then Saturday happened and these things, and a few things. My neurodivergence is interesting for me in some ways. It's things like they weren't listening to me. They got the order wrong. My daughter said, no, that's fine. I went, no, it's not. It's not fine. And I'm getting quite het up about it. They've got it wrong. We're not going to have the right. And then the food comes, it's still wrong. It's a cream tea because I do like a cream tea. Should have, like 3 vegetarians, one just wants egg sandwiches and nothing else, which is this one's partner. No, it's fine. We just got the egg sandwich one. No, but there's still 3 vegetarians on top of that. No, we haven't. And my daughter, my youngest from the night before, is just like me and can pick up my discomfort. I'm not managing that well. I can often manage. I'm quite tired. A lot has happened the night before. I'm now quite tired. Things hadn't quite worked out in the morning the way they should have done as well, because, we've all got a plan. It's going to go exactly like that. I'm a terrible submissive to have, because if you don't follow it by the book and by the rule, even the play session, I'm like, well, you got that wrong. And I'm not really like that, but we've got to be really careful about these things. And they also then, and I've said very clearly, they said to me in the email, are we celebrating anything? I went, it's my birthday. I shouldn't have fucking said anything. It's my birthday, but I do not want the celebration. Don't bring a candle over. I don't want any singing. I don't want any of it. That's a really strong thing for me. I fucking hate that. Anyone else hate that? I do. I really hate it. Discomfort, all sorts of things come up. And it's really important that we respect what somebody else hates. But no, again, a couple of my kids, yeah, it's her birthday, bring a candle over. I said, no, I've already asked you not to at least 3 times. I've got a dead serious face now. Please don't do it. Please don't. No, the cunts, even though they're my family, still saying happy birthday with a candle. And they go, blow it out. And I'm like, no. Now I'm a miserable cunt, right? I don't want to. And I felt really I'd said no. If that was a group of people saying, we're all going to gangbang you, my no should be respected, shouldn't it? So why shouldn't it be respected there? Now, okay, I know it's really fucking different because it's just a cake with a fucking candle on, but I didn't want the fucking cake with the candle on. And if you've seen the consent video, like a cup of tea, anyone seen the tea consent video? It's a great little one to watch. You had tea last week, you still bring them tea, they've still got the right to say, I don't want tea. And when they're passed out, you don't pour tea down their throat. Like it's very English, it's quite funny, it's quite good. But we've got a right to say no. And I really felt quite empty. And then on the Sunday morning, another daughter, who was also neurodivergent, but has Ehlers-Danlos, a lot of hypermobility issues, popped her collarbone out, popped it back in. It's quite standard, like she's forever popping something. Please watch that when you're playing with someone. If they go, look at how flexible I am, look at what I can do, and you go like, right, that's a warning sign. If someone's very elastic and they look like they should be in a circus, it's not necessarily good for them to bend that way when you are tying them up, because actually you are making their joints worse. So really check, do you have Ehlers-Danlos? Do you know whether you do or not? You're very hyperflexible, because it impacts their skin, it impacts their healing, and it impacts their, she used to grab her leg and go, look what I can do, and put it right over her, it's on her nose. Like, don't do that. We promote it, and then you watch all these kids doing circus schools and stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, because I see it in cheer. So really watch for it when you play with somebody, especially if you're the top or if you're the bottom. Get it checked out. And if you do have it, really check if you're playing with needles, because the way you pierce the skin, things that you do can lead to keloid scarring, regardless of your genetics or history, and it can lead to popping joints and all sorts of stuff. One of my clients said, it's really funny, my shoulder does this all the time. Like, can I just have a feel? Every single time she lifts her shoulder up, she's popping it out. And it's just popping straight back in again. She had no idea. Pop, pop, pop. So now she's not allowed to reach up for the crisps at the top of the cupboard. She has to get a stool. And she has to go up and not reach up, because it's really important, because you make it weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. I felt like I'd had my fill. I reached the Sunday morning, and she says, can we leave half an hour later? I've already fucking given up on half my things. I'm full. And I said, yep, let's leave at 12:30. She comes down at 12:30, goes to get in the car, she's sobbing. Why is she sobbing? Because I've been a bit of a cunt. I hadn't said, how are you? What can I do for you? Are you okay? What's happened? I would argue 99% of the time I do. Do you need an ice pack? What can I get for you? Need a phone call? Can I get you some food? What do I need to do? I was on empty. There was nothing left to give. But I'm still the mum in that scenario. And it's like when you're the top and the bottom, like, who here is full and empty? How do we give to each other? Actually, it's quite hard, because a lot of doms, a lot of tops will go, I'm fine, because they're tops, they don't need any help. It takes a fucking big deal to be vulnerable with somebody else. And that goes back to that couple's first question. It also goes back to yours and ties them all in. It's really hard to show vulnerability, but it's one of the best things you can do in a relationship, especially if you want to strengthen it. to show the vulnerability, to show. It still makes you a better top half the time, actually. And it's the same as a submissive. No, I'll do it. I'm always going to do it. I'll keep doing it for you. And I'll take it, and I'll do more, and I'll do more. At what cost? Because you've got nothing left to give. Also, if you're the sort of top that do all the washing, do the ironing, do this, do that. Again, gender roles not coming into it. You then want sex later, and you want everything else. Hang the washing with them. In fact, let them give you a blowjob if you're a guy, or let them lick you out, do whatever if you're not. Like, whatever your gender is, do the washing, have a little bit of sexual foreplay in it, and you're still helping. And you'll find that that will lead to later, and it's better. But we don't if we're too classic dominant of, you do all the chores, get on with it. But we still want that person to manage. When it's an everyday relationship, that person's going to be run into the ground. And it's about us not running ourselves into the ground. I was on a dating app recently, and this guy said, he started, I don't know why he started, but he started, we were talking really nicely. He's a psychologist, and I thought, oh, that might be good, you know. It's a lot of self-reflection in some way, shape, addy fuckers like. Believe me, if you go and see a psychologist, ask them how much therapy they've had, not what they do, what their hours are, how much have you had? What self-reflection have you done? This person starts at me calling me a fucking whore, a cunt, or whatever, and I went, are you okay? Do you need anything? Do you need a chat? I'm sorry, where have I said it's all right to call me any of these names? Yeah, but you're loving it, aren't you, you bitch? No, I'm not. And I didn't have a very long conversation. This was quite fast. I don't know who you think you are, or where you are, or why you are, but you haven't even earned the right to call me any of those names yet. Yeah, but usually, and here is the classic always, but you're the submissive, it's your job to say yes. Okay. I said, so let's go forward and let's say we end up as a couple and you have a one penis policy, because I bet you do, because I can already tell he does just by the way he's talking to me. But you want multiple partners, or you want something else in some way. But then someone else comes along and I'm submissive and I say yes to them and them and them and them and them. Well, no, I don't want you to do that. But you do. That's what you're telling me now is okay. You're saying that's what I should do. Well, no, I mean with them. No, I don't think you understand where you're going with this. And it's really interesting, isn't it? Like, we have to know our boundaries of, because I bet, like, especially as a 17-year-old starting out, I was like, oh yes, okay, fine, sir, yes, whatever. I'll suck your cock, I'll lick you out, I'll tape up your tits or do whatever to get in to that club or to do, because that's the way it was. Consent really wasn't around. It wasn't 40 years ago, not in the way that it is now. It wasn't. Who has been in the scene for those sort of amount of time, those years? It wasn't around. You met some nice people, and people were really lovely, but it was really interesting. It wasn't around in the same way at all. So if you want to come in here, you've got to do this. By the way, that still exists massively. When you talk about sales closures and stuff, the pillow close is quite a classic one. Oh, the ballpoint pen went through the paper. Why? Pillow close. Where we get pulled along by people using different ways to manipulate us. It's really important to know yourself, and it also ties back to the Haynes manual, also ties back to the couples question, really. If you know yourself, you know what your boundaries are, what you're going to say yes and no to. If you don't break your own ethics and morals and values, you're not going to have many regrets. If you do, that's where all your regrets are based. No, I just go along with this, or I just do it for the sake of this, or I just do it because I really like them and they might change. Who here has ever met someone, at least once in your lives, where you thought, yeah, everything about them is great, apart from this, but that will probably change? And it does or doesn't. Not many people do unless they want to, do they? Like, they don't give a flying fuck. Because we keep allowing that. And what we're seeing in parenting at the moment actually is a lot of that. I've got a lot of kids coming into my room who are very aggressive, very angry, and very entitled. But when the parent doesn't hold any boundaries at all and doesn't allow for any consequence, I'm not talking about draconian parenting, I'm not talking about absent parenting. There's a spectrum, like we have to go somewhere in the middle for some things. When you've got a child who really gets upset because they don't get their own way, or they believe that they should, or they've been told you can't help it because of your condition, I can help a lot with my condition. Who here is diagnosed with something in some way, shape or form? You don't have to put your hand up. But I do want you to think about it. Can you do things for yourself sometimes? Can you manage? Can you learn? Can you change? For most of us, it's a yes. For most of us. Rather than staying in that place where we say, but I can't help it, the world's against me. It's not. The world just doesn't give a fuck. It's not against you. You're not a victim of it. It just doesn't care. And that's really hard to learn because we want that thing to care for us. That person wants the world to come down on their side probably, and you want it for them. You've got to make sure your world is okay to hold that. And then the risks we take if we ask people in conversations, yeah, but oh God, what if? But I bet when you ask all your what ifs in your stories in your head, they're always negative because you are hardwired to look for negativity. And that's where those bricks and feathers come in. Because if I said to you, here's a ton of bricks and here's a ton of feathers, which one weighs more? What's your answer? They're the same. Sorry? They're the same. You ask a lot of people, they were still, some people in here went, oh, the bricks do. They might not want to say it, but we still do it because it's easy to visualise. Fuck me, some of you are too young to even know what a ton is, let's be serious. But if I said £10 and £10, it's easy to see the bricks. It's much harder to say, what, so the feathers, what do you mean, the little white ones? Do you mean peacocks? Do you mean, there's little white ones that just fluff about everywhere that are in your pillows type thing? How many of them are needed? What, for a ton? I don't know, a couple of warehouses, are you talking about vacuum packed? What if they all move? I don't know. When you drop them, the weight's the same. Your brain is hardwired to pick up the brick because the brick is easier to pick up, it's heavier, you carry it around with you, it's easy to find. Put one of those tiny feathers in your bag that's a positive. When you have somebody come into your therapy room as well, or even at the end of the day, did you have a nice day? We do it, parents do it as well. If ever when you came home from school, if you said to your parents, and they said, did you have a nice day? And you said, well, I got a 9 in maths, because that's an A star nowadays. I got a 9 in maths, and Sophie kicked me in the head. Your parent doesn't go, you've tried really hard for that 9. Well done. It doesn't matter what you got. It matters that you worked hard, whatever. They go, who the fuck is Sophie? Because I'm going to kick their mum's ass and I'm coming to school. Or they ignore it, and it can be quite wrong, but they always go for the negative, or often do. But then when they're not feeling okay, we say, just think of something positive. We're not showing them. We don't do that enough. We are hardwired to pick up negativity. How do you pick up positivity? I just count my feathers every day. Did you wake up this morning? Did you have a shower? Was your shower hot? Because believe me, that's a privilege. Did you go for a shit or a piss, which is also a privilege because you might have a bag or something else as well. One of my youngest had a colostomy bag for 2 years. It's a privilege just to go for a shit. It's a privilege to wipe your ass. I don't like the word privilege, it's overused in the wrong ways, but you know what I'm saying there. It's still better off than a lot of people. Did you have some breakfast? Did you get in on public transport? Do you have the money? Did you pay to get in here? Have you bought yourself anything yet? All of those things are real positives, but you go, well, it took me fucking 4 hours to get here, because that's how I was when I walked in. Because we go for that straight away, rather than me saying, actually, I didn't have a bad night's sleep, I was up for an hour. It's pretty good, really lovely to see my daughter with her partner and the other person that she lives with there this morning, and I managed to pick up the dog shit from the garden, and I dropped her uniform off there, and I did that in the other person's house, because they're so fucking minuscule, we don't count them. Just those things are really important. Like, who here's got quite a nice bed or a comfy bed? Why don't we say, oh my God, I've got a really nice bed. I woke up and it wasn't raining, or the window was open. Because fuck me, how many partners want my fucking window shut? I'm like, I wake up in the morning, I can't breathe. Like, I want my window open. If I sleep alone, my window's open. It's really exciting. Like, you've got to appreciate those small things. We don't, unless I just beat the person up and say, the window's staying open and that's it. Compromise. But it's a feather, it's a positive. But we don't count it. Not really. Had that privilege, it was really nice. Most people in the world don't have a TV in their house, statistically. Most people don't even have an indoor toilet. That's a mad thing to think about, isn't it? But when you go for a piss or shit, you're annoyed because somebody's pissed all over the seat, or you've got the argument whether the seat goes up or down, depending on who's there, or you've got things on the floor and you're like, oh God, do I have to put a ping pong ball in? What's having a go? Those gender wars are really interesting in houses as well. You didn't take out the recycling, that's the biggest argument. Recycling is one of the biggest arguments in domestic couples who live together. Fucking recycling. Isn't that mad? It's one of the biggest things that we have, recycling. Who took it out? Who didn't? And we have interesting divides in families. We still have them in households where both genders are the same, depending on how we've been brought up. You do those jobs and I do those jobs. There's still an interesting divide regardless. And I find that amazing that It's so cultural in a lot of us. Because then you've got epigenetics as well, which means your shit isn't even your shit. Your shit is your great, 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 great fucking grandmother's or whatever. And it's come down the line. And it really has. So some of our shit isn't even ours. We've still got to sort it, but it's not even ours. It's so hot in here. Does that answer you a little bit? Because I'm just going to go on and on about fucking protect yourself, really. Yeah, you can grab me afterwards, it's fine. It's really hot in here. It's been really busy. Thank you all for just listening. If you've got any other questions, I can be around for 5-10 minutes. That's often what happens. People grab me and say, by the way, I didn't ask. I'm like, why not? But thank you for your time and I hope you get some fresh air. Thank you.